Good morning. Welcome to Who's the Boss? Where's my applesauce? Who's really in charge at the White House? And we've got a great lineup here. I'm going to introduce them in a second. But first, I've got a question for you. Who here believes that desiccated old weirdo's really in command in the White House? Let's see a show of hands. So you guys don't think he's in charge? Well, we're going to find out who is, and we got the people to do it. Sara Carter, investigative journalist. You know her from Fox News and SaraCarter.com. Congressman Mark Green from Tennessee. Not just a congressman, a doctor and a combat veteran, and a graduate of West Point. And of course, West Point is one of our top 5 service academies. So that's little officer candidate school humor there. And Representative Jody Hice from Georgia. He's also a pastor, so let's keep it clean.
Kurt.
Sara, who is in charge at the White House?
China.
Oh.
I was of course I'm teasing. Of course I'm teasing.
Are
I was going
you?
to say Iran,
Not.
look, it's very complex, right? Because so many people, this is like, I think, the biggest question that everyone's been asking. Who's in charge of all the policy-making decisions at the White House, both national and foreign? And I got to tell you, it feels like a resurgence of the Obama administration. Yeah, and I think a lot of people from the Clinton, former Clinton allies as well, like John Podesta, a good friend of mine, said, you look at him and see the influence that he has had in this administration. And I got to tell you, Susan Rice is, and remember, we investigated her. Whatever happened to all the unmaskings, right? Everything that Susan Rice was involved in with regards to, I believe, and I still do believe, which was never punished, the abuse and weaponization of both our intelligence and law enforcement agencies to spy on an opposition party. But she's back in the White House, and she's highly influential with national policy. This is the most progressive administration in the history of the United States, and there are fundamental changes happening, and it is certainly not Joe Biden. I almost feel like he's the puppet that they're using in order to enact all of these radical policy agendas.
Well, Congressman Green, you three guys have a unique perspective. I mean, you have a unique perspective as a doctor, and I know you can't diagnose somebody from a different distance. But a lot of us are looking at this guy and going, he seems a little shaky. He's not doing so good. Who do you think is actually pulling the strings in the White House?
Well, I think it's really this socialist leftist agenda. I mean, they have recruited people on the Biden team. It looks like they casted everybody out of the Che Guevara catalog or something. I mean, they are leftist. He's more left than Woodrow Wilson. Oh. I mean, and Woodrow Wilson was the racist, Democrat who wanted one world government. But that's where Joe Biden. I mean, he's gone left of himself, left of Obama. I mean, he's left of Obama. When you think of pushing surgeries, transgender operations on 10-year-olds, when biological boys can compete with girls and destroy women's scholarships in America, I mean, they have gone off the reservation.
It's kind of nuts, isn't it?
It is.
It is.
It's crazy.
Congressman Hice, what do you think about this?
Yeah, listen, and I think that's a great reality that we have to face up to, is that, look, when the radical extremist left wing kicks God out, you get this kind of stuff, and that's really what we have as well. You have moral bankruptcy as an individual and as a country when you kick God out of the equation, and we have that. We have Joe Biden running around trying to convince people that he's a moderate. But, listen, here's the dirty little secret in Washington. that it is that actions speak louder than words. And when you look at the people that Joe Biden is surrounding himself with, the extreme radical left-wing ideology that he is surrounding himself with, and the legislation that they are pushing, it tells you everything you need to know about this administration, that the Biden administration is not just allied with the radical extremist left, they are the radical left wing.
That's right.
We've seen since Joe Biden's inauguration not very much of Joe Biden, right? Okay, they're hiding him. The only person who's more out of touch is Kamala Harris. I don't know, I think they send her to Siberia or something, where she would probably make new friends. But who do you think is making the day-to-day calls? And whoever it is not doing a very good job. I mean, they've got the kids in cages again, and you would think that they would think that through. The only way they could have played it worse is if they contracted out the operation of those kids' facilities to the Lincoln Project.
Kurt, if I could...
Ahoy!
Kurt, if I could just real quickly, in just a couple seconds, say the decision-making begins with the Chief of Staff, Ron Klain. I mean, and every day he is having conversations with people like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, members of the squad, and he has publicly stated that his intent is to permanently install these people in the policy-making process. So it starts with the Chief of Staff, I believe, and then it filters out from there.
So, Congressman Hice, let me follow up on that. Are they actually soliciting input from AOC, or are they trying to play her off, playing the left against the, well, not as far left?
No, they have opened wide. Their philosophy is, we are a diverse party. We want everybody having input. But what's shocking to me is that particularly with the radical left, they are not just getting input, they are permanently bringing these people in as the policy makers of this administration, and thus we are getting what we're already seeing in the first couple of months.
Yeah, the moderates feel like, and the Democrat moderates feel like they're pushed aside, though. I mean, this really is a leap to the left, well, to leftist, not left. I mean, they are rabidly socialist, rabidly centralized power in Washington, take it away from the states. The First Amendment's gone, religious freedom gone. Second Amendment, they're talking about an executive order on that. Due process with the cancel culture, gone. States' rights, gone. I mean, the Constitution means nothing to them. Even the moderate Democrats in the Congress are saying,
that's right,
we're not in the game anymore.
Can I just add something to that? Because I think, and before I forget, this has been a process that has been in the making now for decades. I believe that we've seen it in our universities. You know, I've talked many times, you know, Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA, yeah, exactly. With on campus, you know, conversations about where are our children learning this ideology. See, someone like Joe Biden or President Biden and his administration would have no ability to obtain the kind of power that they have without at least some of the support of the people. We just have to come to terms with that. So where have we dropped the ball that our young people have become radicalized as well? They're being radicalized and they're turning into young adults. And now they're saying, you know what? Oh, we want to expand government. We want the government to tell us what to do. We need the government to take care of us instead of being excited about American values and freedom and being independent and what that means and civil liberties. They're totally okay with censorship. So that is the problem that I have. Where do we make those changes? How do we address the reality of what's happening in our country, right?
Well, look, Congressman Green, you and I are both Army officers. Yeah. We counterattack. What's our move to counterattack? Can we employ the moderate Democrats to the extent they're moderate? I'm from California, okay, so.
Well, there are none out there.
Everybody's moderate. But how do we use them to counterattack to stop the radicals that seem to have the White House?
So those 4 or 5 you know, we have a 4-seat minority, I guess you could say, and those 4 individuals know their target. I mean, we're targeting about 40 seats in the House, and we will flip. Kevin McCarthy will be the Speaker of the House in less than 2 years. We will win back the House. They know they're on that target list. They realize that they have to basically represent their districts. We're gonna get some votes going our way because of that strategy. But if you look at our strategy here in the next 18, 20 months, we've got 30 state legislatures where we on both sides. And in those 30 states, 170 plus bills have been dropped to fix election integrity. We must do that, and we will.
Number 1.
And we're redrawing the districts. We're redrawing the districts. 3-to-1 ratio, Republican to Democrat, in control of that. And we're going to take back the House, and then we can push back.
Well, you know, Congressman Green, I'm a big believer in applying the new rules. You want to play horsey? This is horsey. Let's cut ourselves some districts that work. Let's leverage our state governments not only to fix the electoral system, but to fix big tech.
Yeah, there's some
Right.
giants out there that need to be killed, right? And we need some Davids. We need every one of you to be Davids. Grab the sling and let's go take the giants down. Planned Parenthood, Facebook, Twitter, all of these guys, the DNC, get your sling and let's kill some giants.
Congressman Hice, I thought you were the pastor here.
Yeah.
Preach.
Yeah, let's take up an offering. Yeah, listen, here's a reality, though, that also we have got to look at with this, and Mark is exactly right. They are going to do some horrible things, which gives us some great opportunity to take the advantage in 2 years. But how much damage is going to be done in the next 2 years, y'all? We've got to look at this. And as far as election, next week, the Democrats are putting forth H.R. 1, which would federalize elections. It would make elections... listen, but they're doing it. We're going to be voting on this next week, and it will pass the House. I mean, we've got to understand this. It will federalize in every state, force universal mail-in ballots, 0 voter ID, ballot harvesting, all these sorts of things. They are cramming down our throats because they know that we've got a great chance of winning in 2 years, and they're going to do everything they can unconstitutionally, as it is up to the states to deal with elections now. They're going to do everything they can to strip that away, get around the Constitution, and make sure that they're in control from now on. Well, we can't let this happen.
Well, on the plus side, we can rely on John Roberts. Oh, right.
He went there.
I don't think
Yeah, there will be lawsuits.
Yeah.
I promise you.
Okay, look, I think we have identified the problem pretty effectively. Let's talk solutions. Sara, how do we deal with these personnel that are coming in? We saw Rand Paul's discussion with the person who thinks that kids ought to change their sex at age 6.
Right.
Rachel
Levine, yeah.
You've got some info on some other folks who are trouble, and they're coming down the pike.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, we have to not be afraid to speak out. What we saw happen in the last election, I'll talk about Alejandro Mayorkas, and you brought him up as well, Congressman, when we were backstage. You know, what happened in the last election was unbelievable. How did we not see this all coming down the pike? How did the RNC not see it, the GOP? How did we not know, what was going on with the Lincoln Project? How did we not know Facebook was dumping
well, in fairness, everybody knew it. Everybody in Washington knew about the Lincoln Project.
Apparently everybody knew about it, but the American
Everybody at high
people,
schools knew about the Lincoln Project.
Yeah, exactly, but the American people, right? So now we know what's happening. Now we see what the result of not paying attention to Washington, D.C., what we've ended up with. So now we have Alejandro Mayorkas coming in with Homeland Security, right? He's a big open borders guy. I spent a lot of my career at the U.S.-Mexico border. It's roughly almost 2,000 miles. When I started covering it in early 2000s, and I can tell you even before that, it was just porous and dangerous, and it's run by the drug cartels, and it's never changed. And we perpetuate the behavior of these criminal organizations, these terrorist organizations, I like to say, who pillage and use and rape and kill our own children with their drugs. And not only that, when you hear a Democrat say, oh, but we have to care for the migrant, we need to care for these immigrants. I've been there and I've seen this with my own eyes. No one needs to tell me what I've seen when I've gone to Guatemala or I've been to Honduras. And I see the caravans coming over and I see the people being abused, money being stripped from them. Then they come over here and they have no rights once they get here. But you have a Biden administration and people like Alejandro Mayorkas saying, no, we need to be kind. We need to open these borders. If you say anything against them, then you're anti-immigrant. No, you're inhuman if you support those policies. Because they destroy the American people and they also affect the people overseas. We need to speak out. We need to rattle cages. We're obviously not in charge of the House yet, you know, in the Senate. We need to get that back in the next 2 years. But for the next 2 years, we can't give up. We can't be quiet. We can't be passive. And I don't mean in any kind of bad way. I mean, we've got to be able to say the truth, to speak our minds, and not to be afraid to question these people that are getting paid with our taxpayer dollars.
Congressman Green, you're from that strange place between Washington and where I live in California called America.
Yeah. Go Tennessee.
How do normal people feel about all of this? Now, I'm around a bunch of Californians. You know, we're busy stepping over hobos and, you know, watching our governor go out to dinner until Rick Grinnell runs.
Don't they have an app in San Francisco to report where human feces is on the side of the street?
Yeah, there's a feces report.
And we're going to bail them out with billions, hundreds of billions of dollars. We're going to bail out these failing cities. Isn't it crazy?
Well, that's great. I mean, you're a military guy, too. It's like going through a minefield, except it's used hobo dinner.
So sad.
But in normal America, people are tired of this stuff, I think. And I think they're looking back here saying, you know, Washington is failing. Where's my $2,000? You know, why am I out of a job? Yeah. All I wanted to do was support my family, and now I'm the bad guy? How are we going to leverage that justifiable anger and justifiable dissatisfaction to first taking back the House, taking back the Senate, and putting in a president from the Republican Party in 2024?
Well, step one is we have to recreate confidence in the election system, and that's those 30 states that I talked about fixing election integrity. So that is step one, and then we got to make sure that folks go out and vote. I mean, we have to do that. I will tell you that in Tennessee, everybody is informed. They're watching what's going on. Of course, they're communicating with us and letting us know their frustration. So that's all great. A lot of the ideas that we get on how to take this stuff on comes from our constituents. I know, I'm sure Jody feels the same way. So it's listening, it's being willing to fight, and then we got to fix election. And I mean, we have to make sure they're trustworthy.
Okay, Congressman Hice, you're from Georgia, and I want to thank Georgia because I was from California, and it was like, oh, the heat's off of us for a while. But they say Georgia's turning purple. How do we turn that around? Because Georgia, that is solid America. This should be a bright red state. How do we get it back?
Well, yeah, listen, Georgia is growing a lot. It's the #1 state in the country for business. So we have businesses from all over that are, and so that is part of the factor. But I guarantee you, Georgia is not blue. And what happened this past election was solely because of a horrible Secretary of State and horrible decisions that he made. And the Georgia General Assembly, even now, is in process of fixing a lot of that. And so I think we're going to see some tremendous change in that regard, as Mark was talking about. But listen, we have got to register the voters. The Democrats outdid us when it came to registering new voters, and they got those folks out to vote, whether legally or illegally. They got them out to vote, and we've got to register. We've got to make sure they vote. And I can say in Congress, as a leading member of the Oversight Committee, one of the things that we're going to be able to do is the Democrats actually installed, while they were in the minority, what's called a rule of 7, which if 7 of the minority come together requesting information, it carries virtual subpoena power. So when you're looking at these radicals who are in this current administration doing horrible things to our country, we are going to, in oversight, be able to exercise one of their own weapons that they used against us to go after the same radical folks who right now are destroying our country.
Well, I think exposure is a huge, huge tool. And fortunately, we have a conservative media, including townhall.com, folks, and SarahCarter.com, that can help do these things. I think that's so very important. Sara, how do you guys in the conservative media, I mean, you're a journalist, but you get put in the conservative space because you're not a communist. So sort of by default, how do we bring this stuff out and then turn it into action items?
Well, we can't be a real republic and a true, in a sense, the practice our democracy the way it's intended without the American people being informed. And I was always so proud of my work as a journalist when I started long ago, and I always believed in that, and I still to this day do. But we've seen a transformation in journalism. I am more of a columnist now, which is what I do. I write columns for FoxNews.com or SarahCarter.com, and you guys can read them. They're out there. And I still do work along the border. I'm planning on going to Mexico this week. But as far as the media in general, what we've seen is a change that is so shocking to the American system. It's so un-American. Look, everybody is gonna have their own perceptions. You never go into a story without having, nobody can say they're completely objective. They're lying to you. But the thing that you have is checks and balances. If you're at the New York Times, you should have editors that are conservative, more leaning, editors that maybe lean a little bit more to the left, editors that are more civil libertarians, and they can look at your story and say, you know what? There's just not enough voice of the conservative in this story.
It is never going to happen.
Yeah, why don't you give Congressman Jody Hice a call? Why don't you give Congressman Green a call? But they don't have that anymore. Now the media literally, and I can tell you this, believes and feels, a lot of these journalists, that they need to take care of you, that they need to protect you from ideas, that those ideas are so dangerous that if you even look at them, you will be transformed into some radical Trumper.
Well, you know, Sara, they've got a point. Because when you embrace freedom, when you embrace the vision of the founders, you are transformed. You are transformed from a serf into a citizen.
Right, you're transformed into a citizen that can make their own decisions. And now with censorship and what we've seen with the big tech giants, what we've seen happen in our news media, and this battle that is waging in our country is dangerous. It's dangerous to our society. It's dangerous to our future. It's dangerous to the future of our children. And we really have to hold people accountable. We really have to remain watchful, and we can't give up. Yeah.
You got about 30 seconds there, Congressman Green. What do you think? Who is the boss, and what can we do about it?
The radical leftists that he's hiring and surrounding himself with, there's an old passage in the Bible, who you hang out with will determine what you believe. And that's what's happening to Joe Biden. He's got Becerros, he's got Gina McCarthy, he's got Mayorkas, all these people he's putting around him. They're the ones driving the train.
Okay, it's up to you guys to derail it. Congressman Hice, you got about 30 seconds. What do you think? Who's in charge? What are we going to do about it?
Yeah, the left wing, there's no question, zero question, the left wing is in charge. China has influences, whether they want to admit it or not. Big tech, Obama himself. I mean, there are multiple influencers in this. But let me just end with a word of encouragement. At the end of the day, we the people are in charge of this country, and we the people are the one who have to rise up and get rid of this current group in this next election, and we need to take our country back, and I believe we're going to do so.
Thank you, Congressman Hice.
That was great.
Thank you all for being here and being in the game.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Hi, Kara.
Well, we know who isn't the boss, and that's Joe Biden. We know who is. It's the damn leftists, and we know who's going to take this country back. It's you folks.
That's right. Let's do it.
That's right.
I'd like to thank my fellow panelists, the brilliant Sara Carter.
Thank you, you all. Thank you.
Mark Green.
Thank you.
And Jody Hice. Thank you all very much. I'm Kurt Schlichter, Townhall.